I will try to finish these notes in 15 minutes or less. If not, I'll make a part 3 and post that as well. Okay, so I had one problem left to finish from part 1, and that was number 6. The first thing I'm going to do is to get rid of the fraction by multiplying this whole equation by 7. 7 times 1/7 is 7/7, which would be 1p squared. 5/7 times 7 is 35/7, which is 5p squared. 7 times -20 is -140. Then let's look over here at our steps over here. It says check to see if b equals 0, which means do you have a p to the first power? Over here, do you have a p to the first power? No, I've got a p to the second, a p to the second, and I have a constant term, something that doesn't have a p. So b is 0. If it does, skip to number 5. So go down here to number 5. Move the constant to the right by adding or subtracting, and my constant is already on the right. Get the quadratic term alone. Well, I have 2 quadratic terms, so I'm going to move this quadratic term over here. How do I move 5p squared to the left? By subtracting 5p squared. So let me do that. P squared minus 5p squared is -4p squared. This is gone, equals -140. I'll divide by -4. P squared is going to equal a positive, of course. How many times is 4 going to 140? 35. So -140 divided by -4 is 35. Then let's see, we did step 5. Take the square root of both sides to solve. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. P is going to equal, is 35 a perfect square? No. So the square root of 35, and look at number 7. Don't forget the plus or minus. Plus or minus the square root of 35. So that's the answer to number 6. Now, for questions 7 through 9, it says to solve by factoring. We may look at number 9 and decide if we're going to solve by factoring. We really should follow the directions, and maybe I will, just because. But I will point out when we get to number 9 that actually you would not have to solve by factoring unless the directions say to. Okay, so to solve by factoring, it has to equal 0. Your equation does. And let's see. We're going to start at step 2. Step 2, make sure your equation is equal to 0, which it is. Step 3, factor using the steps we outlined in class. Remember, A is 1, B is -12, C is 36. Make a chart. A times C would be -36. Sum of B would be -12. Things that multiply to give me -36 and would add to give me a negative number. I'm writing them down. Five doesn't go to 36. 6 times -6. Oh, and it's not a -36. Oh, do you all see that? It's a positive 36. That's a positive. Let me see. I don't know if I can erase. I'll just put plus signs. A positive, a positive, a positive. 1 times 36 is 36, 2 times 18, 3 times 12, 4 times 9, 6 times 6. Okay, so which of these will add to give me -12? None of those, but if I would make them all negative, 2 negatives make a positive, should have just left those negative. -6 times -6 adds to give me -12 and multiplies to give me positive 36. So I'll go over here, z equals, put 2 empty binomials, put x or the middle variable in the first spot, put a -6 and a -6. Okay, so we factored. We did step 3. Now we're on step 4. Use the zero product property to solve. The zero product property means that you take each factor. Here's one factor. Here's another factor. You set them equal to 0, and then you solve each of them individually. So x minus 6 equals 0, x minus 6 equals 0, the blue factor and the green factor. Then solve each little equation themselves. Add 6. Now notice I got 6 twice. You do not have to write 6 twice. This is called that double root. It means it touches the x-axis instead of crosses. So my solution is 6. You could write it like this. You could put x equals 6. That's my x-intercept. Whichever way you want to write it. Even if you gave me this answer, it's okay. But I would probably put this answer. Okay, looking at number 8. Does it equal 0? No, it does not. I'm going to subtract 14x and add 40. I'm going to name A, B, and C. Not going to make that mistake about a negative product. A times C is 40. Sum of B is negative 14. Okay, I want to multiply and get a positive and add and get a negative. So that's 2 negatives. A negative 1 times a negative 40. A negative 2 times a negative 20. 3 doesn't go into it. A negative 4 times a negative 10. And that's it right there. Negative 4 plus negative 10 is negative 14. Okay, put your 2 empty binomials. Put your middle variable in the first spot. Minus 4, minus 10. Then do the 0 product property. Remember, that's where you take each factor and set it equal to 0 and solve. So the blue factor, set it equal to 0. The green factor, set it equal to 0. Solve each little equation and get 2 answers. And this time you should notice that we get actually 2 separate answers. So my answers are 4 and 10. If you just circled those previous answers, if you just circled this, I would be okay with that. That's perfectly fine. Okay, let's look at number 9. It's probably different from your number 9. I put it on here on purpose. Let's pretend like this one doesn't have those same directions, and it just says solve. When I look at this problem, I have an x squared term, so 5 is my a value. I have a constant term, so negative 20, because I'd make it equal 0, is my c value. But hopefully you notice there's not an x here. So I could factor, I could try, but since b is equal to 0, I can skip to step 5. Move the constant term to the right by adding or subtracting. Well, it's already on the right. Get the quadratic term alone by multiplying or dividing. How do I get rid of this 5? I divide by 5, so let's do that. So x squared will equal 4. Take the square root of each side. Take the square root. So x will equal 2. The square root of 4 is 2. Don't forget the plus or minus. Now, don't forget why you need that plus or minus. Now, I can circle that, or I can put negative 2 and positive 2. Let's talk again really quickly about why you need that plus or minus. What can you square to get 4? You can square positive 2 and get 4, and you can square negative 2 and get 4. That's why when you look at this, 2 is an answer and negative 2 is an answer, both of them. Also, the degree, the largest exponent is 2. My degree tells me how many solutions I will have. Now let me go on to the next slide and we'll see how far I can get with that one.